Now we're ready to start putting on the end walls, and you start by going on ahead and putting a string line up. Make sure it's from the outside of the post to outside of the post on these corners, and just run that straight down, get it taut, and then auger your holes. There's 4 pipes on each end wall, on this building there is at least, and now this kind of depends on how big your door is going to be, on how wide, because you're pretty much going to want your post nearly at the edge of your door frame, within a foot or so, and then your second post or the middle post is going to be about the middle of that, and it doesn't have to be real close or real accurate, just within reason. I auger the holes about a foot, foot and a half, drive the post in the rest of the way so that way it holds steel on its own, and then once they're fastened to this base, then we'll go ahead and put the fly ash in, or concrete, or whatever it is you're using to fashion your post in with, or you can just drive them directly into the ground. So we're going to start by putting the brackets on the end here and getting that fastened onto the corner post. So we're going to start by putting this bracket on the end. These are a bracket with a 90-degree twist. So that just goes right down on the middle of this base. Go ahead and fasten it completely down. These take 6 self-drilling screws. Alright, now we got that fastened in place. We're going to use these same brackets that we've used on all the other bracing. Now, you are going to put this just about on top of this center bolt here. You might kind of have to move it around to get the fit right, but you want this base pretty much flush with the bottom of your baseboard. And if you have to, if your ground's a lot higher on the end than what is the other, you can always go at the top of your baseboard. It really doesn't matter, it's just whatever works best in your situation. But if you can, put it flush with the bottom. This bracket just goes on the same way as the others have. You have that there, check and make sure you're about going to be flush to see if you're going to have to move your bracket down underneath this bolt, which is a possibility. We'll check that real quick. See, this one's going to set a little high. Let's try moving it down below and see on how that works. Once again, just like everything else, make sure that your bolt is facing to the inside and the head's on the outside so it doesn't interfere with whatever you're using for a end cover, if it's plastic or metal. Even if it's metal or wood, the bolt's going to get in your way otherwise. Just finger tighten that, and then check to see on where it sets. And that's about right there. So I'm going to go ahead and snug this down. Before you totally tighten it down, check again and make sure you're about flush. Go ahead and tighten it down. And just like the brackets that we used in all the other spots, this also gets a self-drilling screw through the bracket and into the corner just to make sure that it never moves. Alright, that's how you attach the corner, and that's what you're going to start with. Now we're going to move on down and we'll show you how you attach it to the legs from there. Attaching these bases to the post, this is where your string line is going to come into play. By running that string line along the front of the corner post, like I said, then you can use that to make sure that these will be straight with the end of the high tunnel, and they're going to be flush, they're not going to be bowing out or anything. So you're going to use your string line then to make sure that you're in line with the high tunnel. Now get a level and put on this base here, and then as you can see, this post is too tall. So I'm going to slide this level back so that way it's out of the way, yet I can still use it. Then get a magic marker or a pencil or something to mark it with. Now go ahead and hold the pipe up or the base until it's level. About right there. So mark that. Now that gives me a measurement on how much I need to drive this post down, which it looks like about 4 inches. You're just going to want to drive it down to a kind of a ballpark estimate on where it's at, and then I'll show you how you finish it up here once we get this attached. About 4 inches. Now you can also just hold that up. And see, that's got me within about a 1/2 inch. That's close enough. If you got some dirt from your hole, just go ahead and pack some under there until you're up to the height you need to be. Slide this level down where I can see it better. Right there. That's all it took, just a little bit. And you don't need to be real close on that because this is kind of just the rough estimate until we get the bracket on. Now, run those screws out a little bit so that clamp's loose on there. You should be able to kind of move that up and down still. And the reason we're doing that is go ahead and lift this up to where it's flush with this base. Now go ahead and drive your screws in the rest of the way. And go ahead and put your screw in that goes through the side of the bracket that keeps it from slipping. Alright, now once we got that on, you'll notice that if you're not level, as this isn't because I picked it up, so it'd be flush, that's fine, because what we're going to do then, we're going to use a sledgehammer and drive this down a little. This is why I have not set these posts yet. I have left the holes empty, then that's where we're going to fill them when we're done here. Just take this, hit it a couple times, and then check it and see where you're at. Yeah, it's almost there. There we go. That's just about perfectly leveled. It's essentially to make sure that we don't knock this out of place. But we shouldn't. We'll use the same exact bracket. Now that we got that bracket fastened in place, we're going to do the same thing. Leave those screws loose and do not put in this side one that keeps it from slipping. Now, I'm going to take the hammer. Now, as you can tell, this is set too high. We're just going to drive this down until it's flush. Now, check with your level. We're still level, so it's good. Since that's level, go ahead and tighten these up and then put the side screw in. Alright, there we go. That's how you get those fastened there and make sure they're straight. Now, I'm in line with my string, but if you're not, then go ahead and nudge this around either forward or back until you are in line with this string so you know you're straight with the outside you're building. Once it's all good, go ahead and pour your fly ash in or your concrete just like you did on the rest of the post on this building. Now, you might have also noticed I did not cut the length of this pipe. The reason why is I'm going to leave them the length they are until I get both sides on. Then I'll measure my door and go ahead and cut it. So that way I know I got an accurate width for my doorway. If I cut these first, I'm taking a chance of them moving in or out a little bit, and then my doorway might be a little bit of an odd size. You can get them much more accurate by waiting and cutting the doorway into the base after it's set in place. Now just repeat this process on the other side. Now, you just want to go ahead and measure 4 feet to the other side, do the exact same thing. Now, if you are going to be using a smaller door, just measure accordingly, or if you're not going to put your door in the center. It's also very common to put an entry style door over to one side, and that works well. Just adjust all this accordingly so it'll work out right. But if your plans if you have a pre-ordered end wall like mine, make sure that you're going to have enough steel or enough wood to accommodate that, because it could very well change how much you're going to need. But if you have enough, then just put the door wherever you need it or how you want it. Now we're putting in the doorpost, and putting in the doorpost, your easiest bet is to take a piece of scrap from when you cut out your door frame or something and set it down here. And then go ahead and take your marker and go ahead and mark that. Then you're better off to go ahead and just put this bracket on, because your doorpost is around 11 foot tall. And so if this bracket's already screwed down in place, then you can just set your doorpost up and put the screws in, and you're not messing with the entire bracket. It makes it a lot easier. So we're going to go ahead and screw this down in place. And just barely tighten that so you can still move your bracket to make sure you get it lined up and square. Because you do want to make sure that this is properly square, or it's going to put a twist into your doorpost. Now, when I put these up, I always make sure that the factory cut is at the bottom. Because since I'm only cutting with a circular saw, I might not get 100% square, and that can cause it to be off a little bit. So I always put the factory cut at the bottom. Make sure on the end you cut, you take either a file or a grinder or the edge of your saw blade and kind of smooth those edges over. Any wire edge from a cut, that's just going to tear your plastic or film up later on in time. Kind of make sure that you're relatively straight and everything, because you're going to want to make sure you've got that close, but not real close, because it has a lot of movement, and so you'll move it around and then get it right when you hook it at the top. Let's go ahead and put the other two screws in. Alright, there we go. Now we're going to go to the top and fasten it up there. Attaching the top of your doorpost, you're going to use these same brackets that we did on the rest of the bracing in this building. So you're going to go ahead, stick this on the hoop just like we had before. Make sure you don't let it slide all the way down. And then we're going to use these brackets here. These have 6 holes in them. You just run your self-drilling screws in. These are about the same type of thing you'd want to use if you're building with wood. They have a 90-degree twist at the end with a hole for your bolt. Now you just go ahead and just bolt this through. Just about like that. Now, you're going to slide your bracket down into place. Make sure that your door jamb is plumb. About right there. I've already got a mark up here for where it should be. Just hold your level against it and make sure you check it. Get it close, put your screws in, and then from there you can tap this back and forth and make your small adjustments. This is one thing that on this building that you're going to want to make sure is pretty accurate on how plumb it is, because otherwise your doors are going to want to lean, and so you're going to want to make sure you get this relatively straight. Let's go ahead and start putting some screws in. Make sure your bracket's about in the middle of your post. Now you got all your screws in and you have those tight. Go on ahead and make sure that you're flush with the outside of your hoop. You want to make sure that's all going to come together when you put your end wall plastic on. Make sure you're plumb. And that's about straight for mine. So Once you have all of that straightened out, plumb, and then flush with the outside here, go ahead and tighten this down. And it might want to move outward, so you might just have to tap it back once you get it tight. Now once you got that straight, then go ahead and you put a self-drilling screw in through the bracket, just like we did on the other brackets. Make sure you either put it on the inside or low enough that the head will not snag your covering. Alright, now let's continue on to the rest of the wall. Putting the second post in is the exact same way that you just put in the door post. The only difference is where this one only has one bracket at the bottom, you put one on each side on this post here. Other than that, it's the exact same process. Measure out about half distance between your corner and your door post, and that's where that middle post is going to go. We got the cross bracing on here. This tubing here is the smaller tubing, so it uses the exact same L-style bracket, but it's a smaller bracket. Now on my wall, I doubled up the brackets. I put one on top and bottom. And the only reason I did that is, this is a north-facing wall. It'll get a lot of heavy wind if we get a storm. And I wanted to make sure it's going to hold up well in any situation like that. So I went with double brackets. That's up to you, rather not you need to, depending on your location and what kind of weather you get. Now, these are spaced 48 inches apart from top to the bottom of the basin, and that's where I spaced it for mine. It's where it works best for you, according on how you're going to do your end walls. Now, the brace that's just above this is 3.5 feet, it's at 42 inches, and once again, that's just up to you on where you want it, and what'll work best for you. The brace here that's closest to the corner is attached to the corner in the exact same way that the upright posts are attached to the hoop. Same brackets, same exact thing. And now that you've got that finished, then just do the exact same process that we did on this half of an end on the other half. All right, we went ahead and got the other door post in place, and then we put on the top part of the door frame. And it's the exact same thing. You use the large L brackets, and we put two on each end again because of the wind issues here. We want heavier bracing. And above that, we put in a small brace there. That is mostly for framing if you want to put in a roof vent, or an end wall vent actually. And so that's what your venting frame would go up against. And we just go with one long vent frame. And so that's kind of up to you if you want to split it in two or go with a different design. Now our doorway is 8 foot tall. It kind of depends on what you want to make yours. You'll just make that accordingly. And then our vent opening is about 2 foot. It's about more like 22 inches, I believe. And once again, that's kind of limited by on how close you are to the brackets that are above them. So you can either make those as tall or as low as you want. That's once again up to you. So after you finish up the other side of the wall here, then that pretty much finishes up your end wall, and just do the same thing on the opposite end of the height.